It's CashColorCannabis, a high level of conversation on livehip-hopdaily.tv, and I have my second guest for the night in the building. I'm Sheena Roberson. Sheena, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, I've been trying to pin you down for the longest to get you over here.
I know.
Man.
I'm so glad to be here though. Like in the studio live. That's dope. I'm
Finally.
Right.
So, Sheena, I would assume most people do know you, are familiar with you at this point. You're very popular on social media. You're very active out in these streets. But those who don't know, who is Sheena Roberson?
Sheena Roberson is a whole lot of things to a whole lot of different people. I'm the founder of Cannabis Noire, which is a platform that's dedicated to helping minorities access the cannabis industry and community.
Yes.
So we create opportunities and help people access resources to help them get into the space or learn more about their medicinal options in terms of cannabis.
Yeah. Well, you know, people clearly need it. We were just having a conversation with my man Rashad, and we was talking about medical reasons. And he definitely has a medical reason why he consumes. Man.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what we've been trying to focus more in terms of like outreach in the inner city and the urban areas that kind of get overlooked in terms of education even, and letting them know that a lot of their needs in terms, or a lot of their reasons why they're using cannabis are most likely medicinal. People don't typically in our community talk a lot about mental health and depression and anxiety and PTSD, but those are all things that we are very that a lot of us suffer from.
Yeah, we're definitely prone to, especially if you live in the inner city. You know, I speak often on this show about how you look at what's going on in Chicago, you know, as far as the violence.
Yeah.
I lay a lot of that to PTSD. Like when you see people, you see them consuming constantly, that's you seeing people die on a regular basis.
Definitely.
You know,
and constantly being re-triggered.
Yes.
On top of that.
Yes.
So definitely, but I think that's part of the problem, is that miseducation and that miscommunication in terms of what the usage is about, what it's for, why being registered and having access to people who can tell you about different strains and that sort of thing is so important. So we definitely are trying to highlight and make sure people recognize that there are definite mental health and medical and medicinal benefits and opportunities that our community is just missing out on and not being aware of.
Yeah, because I feel like when you speak to people like ourselves in the inner city, the first thing that's going to pop up in their mouth is, well, they want a dispensary or they want to do something like that. We rarely have the conversations about what it does to you, why it's doing this to you, or even ancillary ways that you can get into this industry. But it always goes back to dispensary, and it goes back to how can I keep selling weed.
And ironically, that is literally still, after all this time, the number one thing people go to is like, how do I open a dispensary, and how do we rally money? And it's like, it's a lot more complicated than that, and there's a lot more moving parts in it. And I'm not ever discouraging anybody to still go for that opportunity, but there's so many people who have transferable skills that they're not acknowledging that translate into this industry seamlessly. Things that they'll need that they already do. There are accountants that they'll need, right? There are marketing, security. So there's all these different spaces that we could be, capitalizing on and essentially creating a stronghold in the space and kind of being a part of that demographic, a part of the industry that can't be overlooked. So I definitely talk about security a lot, because you can't open a dispensary without security. Right? It's not even possible. And I know so many young guys from my area who would, from Philly, garden bars and college parties, and have these businesses, and they strategically create these plans to build their business. And I'm like, this is a space that you can essentially jump into now, and you don't necessarily need $3 million liquid, right, to open your own dispensary. So definitely agree.
Well, circling back to you being from Philly, knowing that you're from Philly, I'm watching Pennsylvania change as well when it comes to cannabis laws. Medical is now fully is legal in the state. You're watching dispensaries pop up. You're watching things like that happen. What's it like watching Pennsylvania and watching Philadelphia change overall like that?
It's interesting, to say the least. It's essentially what you read about. There's more people who are becoming a little looser in terms of their perception of cannabis and people who use it, and there are people who have been using it feel maybe a little more comfortable to start having conversations and being more open about it, which is a great thing. But I mean, essentially, the dispensaries are not diverse as they could be. Yeah. There still aren't many minority owners of, there's still the gaping disparity. We're still being over-criminalized more than anybody else. So there's still these things that need to be worked out even as this is happening, which is why I am trying to push to kind of, I guess, help create precedents and set standards and benchmarks now, so that as this continues to roll out into our communities, we've had some kind of say in how it happens.
Yeah. Well, again, going back to the inner city, Philly has an inner city that definitely needs outreach when it comes to cannabis.
Yeah.
Like we talk about PTSD. Philadelphia went through a very violent era.
Philadelphia is
still going through a violent era. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, went through a very violent era, man. I'm pretty sure there's still a lot of brothers running around there with heavy PTSD from what some of the stuff they've seen and dealt with. But what's the interaction like going into the inner city of Philadelphia? Like, are we seeing people actually engage the inner city when it comes to getting involved in learning about this plant on a bigger level past just trying to own a dispensary?
Unfortunately, I think a majority of the people who are in this space right now who have the opportunity to educate in a impactful way often miss some of those niche groups or some of those communities because they don't have the monetary, they don't have the money to buy the tickets or be involved or engage or support in a financial way, which kind of puts them at a disadvantage because they don't get access to some of these things, which is why we try to do as many free events as possible. Sure. We host a lot of stuff out of the church because we want to make sure that people do have access and opportunities to get some of these resources and explore these different spaces in the cannabis industry. But there are definitely groups in Philly that are like popping up that are working actively to just kind of create spaces of safe spaces for cannabis and I mean soulful cannabis. There's a group called Stay Lifted that's recently come and been doing education and events and so there's all these different nooks and crannies that you can go to get these opportunities and this education. Unfortunately, the groups that need it the most are still kind of overlooked, though. So hopefully that as this expands, though, this will change and more people will be more aware about it and we'll be able to kind of spread this outreach and connect with community organizations and service providers that are most directly connected with them, like public assistance and community clinics that we've been working with. So hopefully we'll be able to do more outreach and even connect with some of those groups to kind of try to do something even bigger.
Great. Well, it's great that you have plans for that. I know, again, most people focus on the business side and how we can get more people of color involved on the business side, and this is where social equity becomes a real popular thing to have a discussion about. Right now we're watching from California to Massachusetts to Illinois and other states try to roll out some kind of social equity programs. What is your opinion about social equity and some of the programs you're seeing being rolled out right now?
I think a lot of them are unfortunately a little self-serving. They don't wind up helping the people as much as they are expected to or are expected to assist, honestly. And continue to having a conversation about social equity and diversity is at this point feels a little worn out. We've had the conversation for some time. We're all adults. I think we know how to be inclusive. Like, I don't know how else to teach someone to be diverse other than to go. Like, I don't know how to explain that anymore. People have been talking about this since 2001. It's like, at this point, we have to somehow say, you know what, and be responsible and say, we have to start creating our own spaces and doing tangible things. Like, the conferences are cool. Like, I love them. I enjoy them as well. But that we need to start directing that energy into tangible, like, training programs, networks, like, spaces that you can go to, resources, people you can connect with, funders, and things that will actually create growth and help people create something sustainable and scalable. Because, I mean, to go and get the information is fun and it's enjoyable. But it can sometimes leave people right there.
And I believe you're correct. I think this social equity and the conversation alone is a great conversation to have. I think the programs being rolled out, they're well intended. But I think that they're in the baby steps. Right now you're super in the infancy stages of all of these things, and when you're in early stages of stuff, it's really easy for you to corrupt them.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's very easy for you to
loopholes,
corrupt them. Yeah, and right now I think that's what we're seeing a lot of. That we're seeing people figure out the loopholes. Like I tell folks all the time, when you discuss, I think there's a difference between the term people of color and minorities. Like a lot of people fall in the term under the category of minorities. Like white women are minorities. You know what I'm saying? Like exactly. Are we targeting black people or are we targeting minorities? Because if you're targeting minorities, then back me out the conversation. Like that's everybody.
Right. And it's like yes. So all of that. Yeah. But and it's frustrating in a sense though too, because you have people who are sort of depending on what they see as people that look like them to kind of be responsible to give them these opportunities and kind of at least acknowledge that this is happening in a real way. Yeah. And then the people who deserve it the most, who probably were the most impacted by it, which is why they can't access it now, are being overlooked and consistently left out of the conversation. And it's like, how can you build a social equity program to help a community that you've never spoken to anybody from that community from?
or don't actually live in? And that's another thing.
It blows my mind.
I was back home in Boston recently, and I was having conversations with my friends, and I was blown away. I'm like, how are y'all talking about communities that you don't live in? Mm-hmm. like how are y'all like? Let me stop. But how are you talking about conversations?
No,
you can't do this. I don't care if you're in New York, Boston, Philly, whatever. I would fully assume for you to at least be here, have some kind of roots in this neighborhood, for you to be talking about what needs to be in this neighborhood.
And honestly, that's why they continue to miss the mark, because they keep trying to do the staple things that they think these impacted communities need, right? Like, let's give them let's build them a community center. Let's give them some computers. Let's blow up their basketballs. They do the staple things, and then the stuff that really needs to be done, that the community has been asking for, the community that doesn't know how to get the resources to get done, that stuff continues to get overlooked, and then you wonder why they're disengaged and they're not interested, and because you're still not speaking to them and their needs,
or why you're in the situation that you're in right now, where people still aren't getting licenses, and that you actually you get a situation where, and I tell people, for as long as people know me, I'm into politics. I'm a political human being,
and that's all this is.
But I understand where you need to pull out of being so camping out at the state capitol and start doing some stuff. You know what I mean? At some point, because that's how you ended up with that situation where you're watching people still struggle to get licenses and still struggle to even get an understanding about programs that they're really trying to be a part of. Yeah. It's because you're not really speaking to the people you call yourself speaking to. You're using them as posters. Mm-hmm. But you're using them as posters. You're using them as flyers, but you're not using them as people. Like, hey, bro, I need you to get involved with this. I need you to go speak to your mans about this. Mm-hmm. I need you to go into your community where I can't go. It's not a whole lot of that. And it's a lot of, I feel like, I don't know. It's just a bunch of super smart people in the room, and I think they're outsmarting themselves at this point.
I'm not sure, because at this point now we have this has become a source of monetization at this point, right? These conferences, these speakings, these opportunities, and it's like, as long as we can keep these conversations going and pacify those, and we can continue to be over here still doing what they're doing, and it's like, like I said, there's definitely a need for them, but I think a lot of that is smoke and mirrors too, to keep us distracted. Like, let's keep doing trade shows and about like CBD and look at this, and meanwhile they're like purchasing all of the land around you, like.
That's a whole nother episode, man. That's a whole nother episode. Because I wholeheartedly feel that. I think that there's things that are needed, but also, like you said, there's a monetization process here too. Yeah. Where you see so many pop up. There's definitely needs for trade shows. There's definitely needs for lobbyists. There's definitely needs for social equity programs. But there's also needs for you to see people owning these buildings. And there's needs for you seeing a me on air with a mic. There's needs for that. Yeah. Way more needs for that than you trying to create laws that can get repealed the minute somebody else gets elected.
Exactly.
Let's start using actual sense.
Or someone will somehow circumvent. Right.
Yeah. Or somebody. Or using how you just. is it minorities or people of color? Because minorities can be a whole large umbrella.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I can't really applaud a minority bill that got passed. Like, all right, so that's everybody but white men.
Right.
Is that what you told me?
Which still puts us essentially at the end of that list. So I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. So and to instead of continuing to talk about it and being frustrated by it, it just makes more sense to do something productive and try to find ways to really create spaces where people can get access to CBD vendors who are reputable, or distribution and shipping people or marketing people, or consultants or whatever they need, so that they can start creating their own spaces and kind of learning this business. I mean, they're at a disadvantage and advantage because they don't know a lot about the cannabis space. There is a need for them to be educated and learn more and seek resources and help. But there's also this space where, one, this is a part of, essentially most of these people's community's background, right? There's cannabis is somehow entrenched in your life somehow. So you know somebody who's used it, or you have some familiarity with it. And the space is so new that you can emerge amongst reputable companies, big brands, companies that you typically wouldn't be able to just jump in the market and compete with. Like, I know many people who can just create businesses and just rival a cereal company now, right? Really. But right now you can essentially rival Kellogg's if you want to. All you need is the product, the packaging, the marketing, the business model. You just need to create it, right? And so it's a unique time, and it's an opportunity for, I think, a lot of people who have been considering it to definitely start pursuing different opportunities and ways that they can access this space.
Well, you definitely speaking to my heart right here, because a lot of that stuff I believe wholeheartedly. People know me. Like, I believe it wholeheartedly. What are some of the other things that you're working on aside from Cannabis Noire? Like, I know when I first was speaking with you, there was Deshory. I know I recently saw you mention Elevated Experiences. Like, what else are you working on?
So, yeah, there's so many different things happening right now. I'm actually in Atlanta to help with Expungement Week that's coming up for your National Expungement Week.
Liddy.
And so we're also be doing some stuff in Philadelphia, so that's going to be exciting. But we're also helping with the rehabilitation of the jail. Okay. So hopefully there'll be some opportunities for people to support that, because that's a really big deal, is that they're turning this jail into a community center / business incubator space / community center, and it's going to be very important and impactful to the city of Atlanta. So we're very excited about that.
That's interesting. Look at you coming on down here and helping out the good old folks of Atlanta.
A community. My hood is a hood now.
You ain't lying, man. So
But real quick, Elevated Experiences, we're going to be doing some charter trips that are cannabis friendly. So
pause. Where are we going?
There's going to be a couple of places. We're actually trying to compile this because we're working with a few different agents. And so Jamaica is definitely on the list. Of course.
Shout out to Jane Green, man. Shout out to Tangie.
Yes, that is my girl. Yeah. So, Jamaica's definitely on the list. We have an Oregon trip planned, which is going to be pretty interesting. But we're still rolling out details. So we'll definitely be keeping everybody posted. So you follow Cannabis Noire on Instagram, or visit our website so you can subscribe to us so you can get all the updates, because we'll also be doing a webinar about how to enter the business very soon. So,
all right. Can I ask you a personal question? Do you consume? Yeah. Do you consume?
Do I consume? Yes.
All right. So what was the first time you consumed?
It's funny you said that earlier. I didn't start smoking until I got to college.
Really? Mm-hmm. All right. So you on the team? You on the team of we
late life bloomers?
Yeah, late life consumers.
Late bloomers. I wasn't. I actually was very against cannabis.
I was too.
I was like on the anti-smoking committee back in the day. Remember that campaign? It's like "Kiss Me, I Don't Smoke" and the whole like.
Oh, so I still wouldn't have fucked with you. Yeah. But I used to play ball, and that's the reason why I didn't smoke. But I would have never.
No, I was very against it. I thought, look at the girl
that "Kiss Me, I Don't Smoke" button.
Listen, I fed into all the stereotypes about cannabis, and because of the only people I knew who kind of publicly consumed it were very, were like the corner guys and like so it was like, okay, you kind of reference it and create these stigmas and these agreements to yourself that this is not something that's positive. And then I got to college and similar experience. I was just very depressed and I was just upset and I was upset. And I'm not a drinker. I'm not somebody who I don't like the dizzy and the throwing up and all. I'm not into that. Nothing. So I'm like, you know what? And my girlfriends, they smoke. Shout out to Birdie. My girlfriend smoked and she, let me smoke. And we were at this little function. And I didn't realize I was high until like I got inside of the party, like amongst everybody. And then it was like,
yo, there's nothing like realizing you're high.
Yeah, it's the first time. It's a very special thing. Like the first time when you realize you're high, you're like, this is happening. I'm high. Like, and then I started doing the whole laughing thing. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm high. Like, I'm like, somebody's going to see me, and everything was funny. And I was a very traditional. I was the TV version. Like, I couldn't stop laughing. I needed water, everything. I'm like, okay. Do I look high? And they're like, yo, you look fine. Relax. Just chill out. You look high doing all this. And I'm like, okay. And then I turn around and I'm dying laughing again. And I was very the traditional first time smoker.
Let me give y'all some advice to anybody listening. Don't ask another person who's clearly high if I look high.
They'll never notice it.
They're going to always look you dead in the face and be like, nah, dog, you don't look high at all.
Barely eyes open. Like, no, you look fine. No, yeah. So, I wasn't like a heavy smoker because I didn't know how to actually roll myself. So I was one of those people that, even though I had it, I would have to be around folk who could roll up for me because I just couldn't do it. So I know I was bad. But necessity breeds invention. I got stuck by myself one day and I needed to smoke and I had the Dutch and I had the green and I said, you know what?
About to learn.
About to figure it out today. It was the worst L in the history of L's ever rolling, but it somehow managed to smoke. It was a big gaping hole and I just kept holding it and I might as well have been smoking a pipe. It was so.
You was proud of yourself though.
But I was proud and I was high and I was it was probably one of the most satisfying highs I've ever had because I rolled it myself.
In retrospect, though, if you'd have sat down and pulled up Redman's catalog, you'd have found a song called "How to Roll a Blunt" on his first album.
Listen,
that's how I learned how to roll in 9th grade.
Shut up.
Literally, I rolled up a piece of paper and some scrap and some pencil shavings. Called myself trying to impress this girl named Latoya.
You know what?
So I rolled it up and I was like, boom, because I didn't smoke then. Literally, I used to play ball, so I didn't smoke nothing. But she was like, yeah, I bet you can't roll no blunt. I'm like, fuck you mean? You know what I'm saying? I listen to Redman. And all I could think, I'm sitting there going over lyrics in my head. And I'm like, and I pulled it together. I remember handing it to her. And she looked me in my face and said, dang, how you roll no damn blunt? I was like, why you break my heart
crush
like
your
that?
Whole little
why you gonna crush my heart like that? I don't even want to smoke the pencil sharpeners with you, lady.
No, yeah. But now, like, part of, like, me rolling up, and I've recently I had to take some time away because I was, I had to deal with some, like, health stuff, and I was, like, recovering and kind of, like, needed to regenerate, and rolling up now is, like, almost therapeutic. It's, like, part of my little routine. Like, like, and people, like, sometimes, like, oh, you don't use a grinder? No, not all the time. I don't. Sorry. Like, sometimes I like to, break it up myself. I'm like,
she from the hood. She's like,
listen.
Long. What you mean? I'll break down
grinders.
a pound.
Like, listen, the 24th of Lehigh, there were no grinders around. Like, so.
Matter of fact, if you pulled out a grinder back in the day, I don't know who you are. Like, are you
exactly,
a cop? Are you a cop? You got a grinder. What the hell are you doing with that, bro? I'm about to pour you out a bag of Reggie. Like, all this is broken down. Like, what are you grinding back up?
Literally. So yeah, but I mean that's part of my, like, little self-care routine is I sit there and I roll up. I have my little music on and
yeah, that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope.
That's literally part of it.
As you was talking, I was really you was telling me about how you were depressed and you were in college, and I just really saw in my mind a friend of yours going, but here's this joint.
Listen, and it was funny. And
smile.
Shout out to Birdie and Tyrone. I swear they were like.
Yo, them sound like two weed names. It was like Birdie and Tyrone put you on the weed. Birdie and Tyrone put me on my first blunt.
They really were. But I mean, and they were. It wasn't even like a lot of convincing. It was because they were people I trusted. These were people who I trusted with my life. I knew they wouldn't do anything, to give me anything dangerous. And she was like, just smoke this shit. And I'm like, and no words, and I'm like, I don't feel nothing. I'm that guy. I don't feel anything. I don't feel nothing. And then walk in, and it's like, so.
Bro, I got high like that once. I used to date this girl who was from LA. So she took me out to LA. We in Torrance. This is like 2003 or 4. So shit's still not legal, but in Cali everything was still legal.
Yeah.
And to give you even some context of the story, I'm kicking it with the game's brother because her cousin was dating him at the moment. So we in his crib, and I don't know if you ever been in the hood out there, but they got bars all on windows and stuff that don't happen in Boston. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't live in a house and somebody has all these bars on the door and surveillance cameras. I'm like, yo, so they rolled a lot, yada, yada, yada. They helped us get some bud. We rolled up, and it was chronic. And I remember wanting to hit it just because they said it was chronic.
Bruh.
I hit that blunt, and this is how I realized even now, I smoked a lot of Reggie. I hit that blunt, and when I say we went to Universal City Walk, and this always stuck in my mind. I remember hitting that blunt, and I remember walking down City Walk, and I was with my girl at the time, and out of blue I said, fuck it, they ain't gonna get me. And I just started running, and I ran full speed down this long, escalator, sidewalk, moving sidewalk at a Universal City Walk. Ran full speed, I don't know, man, looking like Usain Bolt. I just took off, and they was all laughing because they high as shit too. We later get pulled over by a cop. Yeah, we get pulled over by a cop. Now we in Gardena. Now I'm also realizing that LA is the biggest place on earth. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, in Boston, in 4 hours, I can go from Boston to New York. In 4 hours in LA, you can go from LA to LA. You know, seriously, you can't even leave the city. So we in Gardena, and now we getting pulled over by these cops. So the cop pulls us over, and I'm thinking to myself, now I'm about to go to LA jail. And I'm thinking how fucked up that is. You know what I mean? I'm like 20 at the time. I'm like, I'm about to go to LA jail.
I'm about to go to LA jail.
That's some bullshit. But my man had it learning about weed culture in California. My man had a Pepsi bottle that was hollowed out. Had all the weed stuffed in there. I remember dude grabbed the Pepsi bottles with the juice moving all around inside, threw it back in the car like it was nothing. They did arrest him from child support, though.
Dang.
They did arrest him for child support. They most certainly took that boy in for child support.
That's crazy.
And then we drove home and smoked the rest of the weed. Smoked the rest of the weed. True story.
That's crazy.
True story.
And I've never been, I've never had any police officers ever pull me over for cannabis. But I know that it's a thing. They will really pull up on a corner of guys and hop out, and that is the reason they're patting everybody down and asking people what their names is and if they got warrants and checking IDs. And it was funny. I did an event in Old City, which is a very center city area. It's very not many minorities or people of color are and live in Center City. And this event, they were standing right outside of downtown Center City, which is very, not someplace that you would really do anything out of like you would do in your neighborhood, right? It's Center City, and they were standing outside and they were just having a big cipher outside of the building, just standing there, and they were loud and they were carrying on and they were smoking. It had to be about 9 or 10 blunts in rotations, about 12 people, and they were just standing out there smoking, and they didn't have a care in the world. And I just was thinking I was so frightened for them. I'm I kept looking for cops. I'm waiting for somebody to pull up, and I was you know what? This is the difference.
Yes.
Right? This is
right
the
here.
difference right here. This is the privilege, and that's why it's important for us to although I am focused on helping people who are people of color, I'm looking to help people who are just essentially overlooked, and we need those other people in those other spaces to be those advocates because they have that privilege.
Yes,
they have those opportunities to be back and within their communities and talk about some of the stuff that needs to happen, and some of them have the opportunities to do things about it, but they just may not know what to do. So I try to make sure that I keep open channels of communication, and I always make myself available to work with everybody, everybody. So
So 10 years ago, I'm sure you weren't in this position that you are now with Cannabis Noire and all this. Actually, you probably were still having a button on your shirt that said "Kiss me, I don't smoke."
No,
no,
kiss me,
I don't smoke.
It was going by then.
I was like, what a dork, man.
I know. I was super like
who
geeky.
brought this cop?
And I lived on 24th and Lehigh, so it wasn't like one of those neighborhoods where like everybody's sitting outside drinking Colt 45s and smoking Newports and weed, and there are guys selling drugs, and it's like, here I come with my book bag passing out "Kiss me, I don't smoke" stickers with a frog on it, and ask them to sign up for my challenge, and they just looking at me like, yo, shorty, just go ahead. Go home, Sheena. And so that was me in contrast to now. And unfortunately, and it was because this is what they teach you. This is a gateway drug. This is the start of, all of the people you see in your neighborhood who are on, like crack and are walking around looking like zombies and all sick. And so this is what they connected to. And as a kid, this is what you learn. This is what you assume is correct because this is what the adults are telling you. And so I fell for it. until that fateful day.
I hope you still have that pen. I hope you still.
You know what? I don't, but I'm probably gonna recreate it somehow or something.
You got to do it for the culture. At this point.
One time, just for the Great American Smokeout.
But my question was, 10 years ago this time, you were not in this position at all. You weren't Cannabis Noire. It wasn't any of that. But you are where you are right this second. Where do you see yourself? Where does Sheena see herself 10 years from now? Like from 2019, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I will still be smoking.
Okay.
No, but hopefully we'll be in a space that will be because I think older people they get the stigma. They're like, oh, I'm too old to be doing that, or they be trying to hide. It's like, listen, that's even more freedom. You have more reasons to smoke. But hopefully we'll be in a space that we've been consulting and building education and training programs long enough that we've created a physical space, for people to come to, and we've built out essentially a strong enough cannabis constitution, which we're working on now, that this is a precedent that will change the way the industry operates for themselves, amongst each other, and for customers.
I like your answer. Like, some people would say, I want to be rich. Like, yours is actually like to help other people.
See, like, no. I know, but that's my problem. I need to start.
Say rich, man. Like, start off by like, yo, first I'm going to sell the company.
But you know what?
And then I'm going to go help some folks.
No, but you know what? I never assume I'm not going to be rich. I don't think, I'm like, that's coming. Like, that's coming. I just have to do the work and figure out who and where I need to be and what I need now, so that when I get that money and as it's coming in, I know what to do with it. Like, so I'm making these mistakes now broke, essentially, so that when I'm rich, this won't be impactful.
I love that answer. Sheena, if somebody wanted to learn a little bit more about you, how can they find out about you?
They can come visit me at my website, www.cannabisnoire.com. They can visit me on IG at I was going to say at Instagram.
That is
at cannabis_noire. That's NOIRE. And we also are on Facebook. We have a lot of free education events that are open to the public, so you're welcome to come out, check our website, our IG for those. And yeah, that's probably all the ways you can reach me, minus my phone number.
She said, I ain't giving y'all that.
No, I made that mistake once. I was on the radio and accidentally gave my phone number. I had like 86 messages.
Girl,
I know. I was like excited, and I was on the Q and Fox show and morning show, and
it was your cell phone number?
He was like, so how can I reach you? What's your number? And I went,
please tell me what the text messages was looking like.
Oh, bro, it was like 100 text messages, like, this the girl from the radio? I was like, oh my God.
Damn, Shawty, you sounded good on the radio.
No, it was just straight like, I want to open a dispensary. No hello. Yeah. No, my name is. It was just like, I want to open a dispensary. It's like, what kind of
So I don't even know why you asking me that
number do you think you were texting? Like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so.
That's hilarious. Well, yeah, don't give your phone number out on random internet platforms or definitely not the radio.
No, especially not the radio. I would think that people wouldn't actually like. I didn't think it would be that much traffic, but apparently people were listening that morning. It was very early, so.
Look, people call, like I remember when I used to work at Cytel, that's OnStar, Cameron used to call in all the time.
Shut up.
Yeah, Cam would call you, like, chicks would tell you stories. Like, Cam would call and literally be... If you ever heard Cam's third album, was it Come Home With Me? He literally says on the album, if you driving around and you bored, hit the OnStar. He says it on the album. He used to hit OnStar all the time. People do bored stuff all the time,
Yo,
man.
that's so funny.
All the time.
Hey, I had OnStar in my car a few years ago, and it was funny because I had got, like, they had recalled my engine or my ignition or something, and because the key got stuck, and I took it out and the car was still running. And I was like, oh my God, and I couldn't get it to turn off. So I was on the thing with OnStar, and it was like, you have to turn the car off. I was like, I can't turn the car off. It won't turn off. There's like, put the key back in the ignition. I said, I'll put the key. So I'm literally like arguing with OnStar, and it was so funny because I remember at the end of it, I felt like we was like friends because he was like, all right, so how you feeling? Like, are you okay? Like, I was like, these are like.
Yo, OnStar take you on a whole trip.
They are like, like it's like 911 agents, but not as severe. It's like they are very important.
It's the reason why Cameron would hit the OnStar button and literally just ride down the street.
I think they're allowed to like hang up or something because they like literally they just.
Who? OnStar? Is OnStar still around? I don't think we need it no more.
Yeah, right. Which is a whole nother show, but yeah.
Technology, man.
Right. Yeah.
Yo, if you driving and you ever get bored, hit the OnStar. I'll never forget when Cam said that because I'm like, yo, that's dead serious. He used to call OnStar all the time.
That's hilarious.
I appreciate you coming through tonight. Thank you, Sheena. And that's Cash Color Cannabis, a high level of conversation on livehipHopdaily.tv. All right, so we're going to take